Hi, I'm Crit, and today we're turning these beautiful endangered creatures into limited editions, starting off with maybe one of the greatest weapons in all of video game history, the... Some people think that the Longsword is the definitive aura farmer of this game, and to that, I disagree. See, this weapon looks at a dragon capable of smushing your entire body into a paste directly in its eyes and says, bet. But instead of phasing through it like a little pussy, you simply thug out the damn blow with your shoulder, before lifting a sword that is 10 times your body weight and chugging 5 generations of the dragon's bloodline. This is a simple weapon, the most simple weapon in this entire game in fact, but it's hard to realize that when you're in the front lines fighting for your life, your comedically large sword being the only barrier between life and death. I mean, this sword is almost as much of a gigachad as the person who wields them. Seriously, name a weapon who clashes with a swipe from a monster capable of leveling cities and not only come out on top, but also topples the bastard over. There is no better feeling in this world than landing that true charged slash, a move that only comes after 3 successful blows of your already slow moves. One that makes your guy do a literal flip, lifting the weapon from the very dirt to the air, all in a bid to farm aura and cram as much momentum into it as possible, all culminating in the most powerful move in this entire franchise. It's a weapon that demands patience and determination in yourself. You have to stand your ground and be confident that your move will hit, which is exactly what makes the weapon so exciting and also difficult. When you're charging your strikes, it roots you in place, rendering you helpless to quickly defend yourself, so it's a careful balancing act between finding a location and a time that's safe and being able to react with a tackle if you're wrong. Some people will say that this weapon is slow, and to that I respond, yeah, they're right. But luckily, we're only getting started. If we just tackled the king of the ground, it's time to talk about the king of the skies, the... This weapon is the cure for ADHD and also the fastest way to speedrun Carpal Tunnel. It's probably the most flashy weapon in this game, and frankly, I'm all here for it. See, unlike other iterations of this weapon, the one in this game actually does a lot of damage. Too much even. I mean, you're telling me twirling in the air like a Disney princess is harder than lobbing a 5-ton piece of iron into the skull of a monster? I guess I shouldn't be complaining since the weapon produces so much dopamine from the pure clip potential the thing has. Everything you do with this weapon is cool, but like all good things, it takes time because you first have to get bug use. However, once you get that, either by manually sucking it up from the monster or by popping a wound, that's when the fun really begins. With all your essence, you basically double your moveset. You do flips around the monster, dealing frankly a ridiculous amount of damage, slowly charging up your big attacks where you do a bunch of flips and acrobatics, leading straight into an upward spiral slash where you shoot up in the air, twirling your glaive and decimating everything in your path. Truly, this is the weapon you want to use if you want to lobotomize a monster. You can also fly around like a helicopter, which allows you to be practically untouchable. This makes it so you can get to places holding the essence you need or pop wounds in tight spots in relative safety, finally taking them away from the bow and dual blades players, boosting you further into the air in a cinematic ass moment. Furthermore, you can also shoot down with your glaive in the air, cracking the skull of the monster you're hunting instantly and leading straight into the spiral slash again, not to mention an offset ability that you can not only charge but also move around while charging. It's truly peak, and all the flashing colors and numbers only tickle my brain even more. But if it's hundreds of flashing numbers and colors you're looking for in a weapon, then I have the perfect one for you. The Japanese really fascinate me. Like, what flavor of Fent were they snorting to come up with auto-aiming C4 arrows fired like shotgun bursts alongside a magic invulnerability dash for some reason? The bow in this game is peak. Not only did they finally make the Dragon Piercer useful, too useful to be honest, but they also just made the bow give you super steroids. In a lot of games, bows are these stealthy, long-range assassins, but in this game, you're right in their face with no concern for your positioning, blasting the dragon with shotgun blasts and doing spiritual backflips to avoid being hit. This isn't even mentioning your wound attack when you turn mankind's very first ranged weapon into a high-tech auto-aiming burst explosive. Every attack an enemy throws at you isn't a pain or a deterrent, it's an active buff to you keeping your stamina bar high and making you look cool as hell while doing so. Then when you've fully exhausted the monster, you lock in, drawing an arrow the size of your entire body onto your bow and charging it up for the Dragon Piercer, which does exactly what it sounds like. So many flashing numbers on the screen, my cock is so hard. Hell, even if you don't want to do backflips, you can just dash through everything normally and you still won't get hit. The mobility on this thing is absolutely ridiculous. It'll be sure to anger all your teammates, but to be honest, I'm not even mad because I'd also steal my team's wounds if I could do this every time I hit one. But let's say you don't want to anger all your teammates. That's where the next weapon in this list arises. The absolute goat of this entire franchise, the... Ever saw a massive dragon and wondered to yourself if the power of music and friendship could defeat it? Well, you might not have, but there's a few absolute gigachads who saw Fatalis, picked up a silly little instrument and said bet, and that's why they're the undeniable goats of this game series. See, there's two types of hunting horn players. The ones who sit in the back line playing silly little songs and making every single player in the hunt completely unkillable. They don't dread their teammates being hit, they celebrate it as they ready up another song of life and pretend like nothing's ever happened. And the ones that surround the monster in 50 echo bubbles and send the poor bastard into multiple concussions. They'll also buff their teammates, of course, but it's more because it's convenient to boost them because they're their attacks and musical abilities sync 1-to-1. Both are perfectly amazing because these buffs are no joke. Not dying is one thing, but that speed buff, the damage buff, earplugs, you name it, they'll supply it to your entire team. I mean, I'm not gay, but let's not forget, you can switch weapons midway through, which means you can bring 2 hunting horns, one with a bunch of buffs, and then the Arcveld hunting horn, which extends melodies, which means you can easily turn your squad of hunters into literal embodiments of death, simply through the power of friendship and music. And remember, even if you're playing solo, you're still carrying a glorified hammer, so like, don't be scared to use it and swing it like a baseball bat straight into a dragon flying towards you at Mach 5 and just give it some permanent head trauma. But enough about support and utility. Sometimes you just want to attack something with no regard for your personal safety, and boy do I have the weapon for you. Switch axe, my favorite axe that is played almost exclusively as a sword. That's not a slide though, no, not at all. See, this weapon is literally just a rocket engine duct taped to the back of your massive ass sword. Despite its name, your goal with this weapon is actually to never use the axe form. The axe form is kind of like the charge blade, but it doesn't stay like that for long, of course, and the reason for that is that once you reach this part of the meter, your axe turns into a sword, or should I say, switch into a. The sword mode is everything a sword should. It's weighty, it's elegant, but they're all pretty unflashy. But don't worry, that theme doesn't last long because you've got to spend that energy you've charged up somewhere, and it's coming to come out, specifically from your tip. Anyways, there's a couple ways to unload. You stab your sword deep into the enemy and unload an element discharge finisher, kind of like Glaive and Fire, and then follow it up with an unbridled slash, which imbues your entire blade with this energy, which is kind of like the AD follow-up for the charge blade, but you're here for the SAD of this weapon, or in this case, the full release. You power up your sword before swinging it around like an absolute mad lad, destroying the health bar of anything near you, completely exhausting your axe, resetting it back to 0, but man is it so worth it. It's one of the hypest moves in this game, arguably even cooler than the SAD in this version of Monster Hunter, but you may have also realized something. There's no mobility, no defense like shields, nothing like that in this weapon. If you're in a bad situation that you have not prepared for and you can't dodge in time, you're gonna die. You have no choice but to be aggressive and win, your only source of survivability being offset attacks, which in my opinion are absolutely worth the trade-off. Of course, if you want pure aggression with a little more survivability and mobility, look no further than the... I'm gonna let this clip speak for itself. The Duel Blades are very, very simple. You've got 2 little knives, go absolutely ham with them. Now this often means rooting yourself in place and tweaking out like your friendly neighborhood Woolies crackhead, but when you lock in like no other weapon. Your base movements are 2 very simple slashes, and by that I mean they're completely useless because the real mechanic is the demon mode. Your new combos are now twice as quick and do twice the amount of damage, and you get crazy mobility. Every move propels you forward, and with the new focus mode, you just circle around the enemy, stealing every single wound from all of your charge blade and insect glaive and Longsword and basically everyone who are all just gonna sit in timeout and wait for their turn. But honestly, it's worth it because I mean, it's just too cool. You can't really blame me, can you? Once you've charged your demon gauge enough, you can also unlock the Blade Dance, the move where you flail your arms around and absolutely shred the enemy like it's chicken. Your dashes are insane, your mobility is insane, but unfortunately you can also run out of stamina in 2 seconds, which is actually incredibly accurate for the player base as you'll be needing to chug down energy drinks every other second. That being said, that doesn't really stop you from being a DPS king. See, in demon mode, when you dodge something perfectly, just when you're about to die, you get a boost in damage for the next 12 seconds, and your Bloodhound step turns into a Beyblade dash where you do damage as you dodge. So many damage numbers all over my screen, it's like entering a casino. You will not go a single second without dopamine being directly injected into your brain, and oh my god, the wound strikes. You grapple onto the enemy and you pull an attack on Titan on his ass. I mean, pulling something like this on Jim I'm Hard is the funniest thing ever. You just swing around like a hamster wheel, ripping apart the spine of the poor endangered creature. But let's take a step back from the flashing lights and numbers and ground ourselves with the one, the only subscribe button. Okay, I'm really sorry for begging like this, but really new creators, if you want to support me on my journey and be early, then please subscribe. And if you really want to help out, then please comment down what your main is and why you use it. You have no idea how much this helps. I appreciate it so much. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. Some people think that this is the weapon that stands against all the brain rot Gen Z and ADHD satisfying weapons of this game, but I completely disagree. Sometimes I want to be able to hold down the right click button and spam click the left click button while watching shorts on my other hand to get a daily fix of decoration gambling inside. You sit behind a shield and poke, and honestly, that's fine. You see a dragon that, literally tanks lightning getting ready to beam you out, just step in front of it and tank it. About to get swiped by a tail? Nope. Block it and immediately rear up yourself and prepare to Use your lance in the way God intended. In Wilds, some of your moves also charge, and when released at the right time, turn into counters which do an insane amount of damage. Like, it's genuinely crazy. The lance is locked in this game. All its moves are modular, so you're never locked into a single combo string, so you can go from pokes, uppercuts to swipes with a single click of the button, being practically invincible the entire time behind your shield. Your job is now not only to just look at a dragon 5 times the size of your entire team and go nah, but also do ridiculous amounts of consistent damage with the amount of different jabs, swings, and counters you're equipped with. A perfectly simple weapon for simple but extremely determined people, so let's stick a gun on it and call it a Gunlance is a weapon that, well, you have eyes and ears. It's a lance, but you strapped a gun to it. Man, the Japanese really do have a liking towards a specific genre of weapon. I mean, this is just so extra and yet so damn cool. Your basic attack strings end with you putting a drill on the monster that slowly chips away at its health, and the upgraded version of that combo has you doing a swing that simultaneously fires dozens of explosive blasts. You can also just slash into the sky before bringing your lance down, and instead of normally picking up your blade, you let out a burst round of bullets and use the momentum of that to guide it back into your arms. As I said, extremely extra. There's also shelling, which is the gun aspect of this weapon, because that's exactly what it is. You basically just shoot the bloody enemy. You can even replenish all your bullets and turn it from a semi to a burst, doing a lot of stun. However, it also replenishes your wyvern fire, and this is when I start to question the term gun. Because truly, this feels more like a machine that turns shells into war crimes, because just like, you might want to sit down for this one. This weapon will never stop attacking. You will constantly 24/7 be on any creature's ass, and it'll not only constantly be taking damage because your drill is slowly crawling into its skin, but it'll also never land a single hit on you because the moment you're in a bad situation, you just raise your shield and you'll be scratch free. Or at the very least, in the top 3 weapons of this game, because it is truly amazing. God is 100% on our side, because if he were on the side of the monsters, then this thing would never have been conjured up. This absolute monstrosity. But let's pull it back a bit and explore a more simple, refined weapon. Okay, let's take a break from the weapons that were designed by Dr. Doofenshmirtz. This weapon is the Sword and Shield, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a sword and a shield, and an actual shield at that. In World, the Sword and Shield was actually more like a sword and a big piece of metal you'd bash the skull of a great jaggy with, but now you can actually block, and it's awesome. Being able to perfect block and deny an enemy at a moment's notice is some of the funnest, most dynamic gameplay in the title. I mean, we all talk about the Duel Blades or Bow or Insect Glaive to be the crazy ADHD weapons of this game, but like, the mobility on this thing is crazy. Every move you do has mobility on it. You're never in the same place for more than 2 seconds, and you can even use items without sheathing, so your terrible actions have absolutely 0 consequences. To be honest, I've got no idea what I'm doing, but I'm pressing buttons, doing damage, and having fun, so I don't mind it at all. You get this awesome charged move where after doing a string of combos, you grab your sword and jam it into the side of the monster, dragging it all the way down and causing a lot of tick damage, and big numbers make me big happy, so sword makes me massive happy. You even get this back up, which is just awesome, and from World, I know that this is the trigger for one of the most silly combos in this entire game. The Perfect Rush, which is kind of like the blade dance, except afterwards you slash forward before jumping on the monster and smashing down its entire body, or using your shield to knock the monster out cold. Look, focusing only on the sword, I'd actually describe it more as what you'd expect from a dagger in most games. Of course, you also have a shield too, which adds an extra layer of safety to everything you do. You're finding a new move that you've never seen before, just hold the F button and hope for the best. You can also slice and dice while blocking, which blew my mind for some reason. Something I can't really say for the next weapon. Okay, so this is a gun. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's a gun. Forgive me, Bowgun fans, I only have like 20 minutes to fit all of this in, so we'll be skipping these weapons. Plus, I absolutely understand 0% of anything that's going on, what any of the ammo types do, and all the micromanagement and really cool stuff that you guys are probably doing. I see you guys though, and I love you guys. Sincerely, thank you for pumping out 1,000,000 damage into Gormagala as me and the team feed. And speaking of guns, okay, so this is also a gun. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, guys, it's also a gun. Please forgive me, Bowgun fans, I really don't know what to do. I just really want to talk about them. Right, the Longsword, the definitive aura farmer of this game, not in a nonchalant way like the Greatsword, but in a just direct, really cool way. This weapon also looks at a dragon capable of smushing your entire body into a paste directly in its eyes and says bet, but instead of tanking it, you just stay to yourself. Sheath your sword and strike back at the right moment to completely phase through the beast and do an incredible amount of damage. This weapon is just all about being cool, and while I'm mixed on the new Crimson Slash being by far the best way to play, the backflip you do when countering in this mode gets my pussy wet every single time. There is simply no greater joy than slicing and dicing Archveld only for him to begin to slam down a ton of chains on you only for you to backflip out of it and return back to slicing and dicing. I also love the more Rise-like applications of the special sheath. Locking in and doing a crazy amount of damage with the possibility to charge up your spirit gauge actually made me use it, whereas in World I rather saw it as a method to throw, because I'd much rather do the safe thing and pull out a Helmbreaker instead of possibly ruining an entire spirit gauge. Right, and spirit combos, there's a whole lot more now. The longsword feels a lot more dynamic, which is a trend with every single weapon in Wilds, to be honest. You charge your sword like an anime character as you slowly approach a boss. Pop wounds before a boss can even realize they've been struck and do this Virgil-ass mount finisher. Not to mention the Helmbreaker follow-up is genuinely peak. I love seeing big numbers crowd up on my screen. This is the weapon for you if you want to feel cool, but that only really applies if you're good. See, this is also the weapon that makes me feel by far the most stupid if I'm bad at it. I mean, missing the Foresight Slash, mistiming your EI Slash, missing a Helmbreaker in the year of our Lord 2025, struggling to get back to red gauge is truly one of the worst experiences in this game, but once you've got it, you feel invincible. I mean, sure, all you're doing is pressing left click and F while doing a cool backflip every once in a while, but like, you can have a bunch of fun and simplicity, man. A theme completely backed up by the next weapon on this list, the I'm by no means a hammer main, because it's actually the weapon I've played the least, because I've only played it once exclusively for this video, but I don't need to have all that experience. There's no holier than thou gimmick, no gigabrain outplays, no crazy 10-string combos. You have hammer, you see skull, go bonk it. There's no sugarcoating this weapon. Spin to win. Keep the lizard stun locked in a daze at all times. Your basic combo is one where you do a double bonk on the ground followed up by an upswing. This upswing is actually an offset move and you can delay it a bit by holding onto the button. And like anything good, you've got to hold onto it and release at just the right time. And done right, you can hit dragons out the sky. No complex sheathing times, no need to collect monster juices or dodge perfectly. Nope. Bonk, 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 and sent to another dimension. I mean, seriously, there is no greater golden scar moment in this game than seeing a downed Rathian on the ground, its head pointed out towards you, ready for the skull crushing. And at the end of some combos, you start the Mighty Slash. And it's exactly what it looks like. From here, you spin even more to win, thank Isaac Newton for inventing gravity, and atomize the skull of anything in your way. This weapon is actually strangely really complex. Out of all the weapons I've used, this was one of the harder ones to learn. There's probably still combo strings I'm missing out on, and I also know you can pull a Sonic and spin around and bonk the hell out of a monster from an aerial attack, but it all feels so natural. The moment you get a hold of it, it's almost like the human mind immediately recognizes that the bunga goes unga and you spin to win the game. And speaking of spin to win, the final and next weapon on this list finally got their message. The one, the only. Have you ever wanted to use an axe that's not only imbued with the very powers of Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, but also turns into a bloody chainsaw? Yeah, here we are, saving the best for last. I know, I hate to admit it, but you've been watching a filthy Charge Blade main this entire video, but guys, it's just so peak. See, Charge Blade is not a hard weapon. It's actually kind of brain dead, especially in Wilds, and I'm about to give you a PhD in how to use it. You see these files? Fill them up. Then channel those files into your shield, hit a perfect block or hit a wound, and then spin to win. Your massive 2-ton, double the size of your entire body axe? Yeah. Swing that thing around you with no regards for any of your teammates or your health, and finish it off with an explosive elemental discharge that's sure to send anything it hits into a terrible, terrible coma, and if they somehow are still conscious, whip it around and slap them again one more time, and if they're still alive, yeah, it's time to lock in. Pull it back and then full send an SAD, the best move in this entire game. Am I selling the complexity of this weapon a little bit short? Kinda, but I want you to know that once you've gotten the convoluted ass strings down, this is some of the most brainless unga bunga fun that you can have in this entire game. In Wilds, this weapon has been significantly changed too. Before there were two ways of playing, Savage Axe and SAD both clearly separated and not well melded together, but in Wilds, it's a little different. So you'll be swinging around your Savage Axe for about 75% of your playthrough. The big numbers flying across the screen, the elemental sparks lingering on the enemies, the fluidity of how you do it, it's just so awesome and I'm honestly not complaining. But there's definitely space for the AEDs. Especially in bosses like Gormagala where your attack windows are really tight, it's really nice to be able to throw out an AED, and because of the new AED follow-up, you're basically guaranteed a second hit if you can hit your first one. Also, the SAD isn't bad, like at all, it's actually really good and it does a lot of damage. The only complaint I have is the lack of emphasis on the sword mode, since your axe mode is so OP and fun, but it's fine. The sword and shield is so good in this game, so yeah, just play that instead I think. Look, the only reason I need sword and shield is to pull an SAD out my ass ass by triggering it from a perfect guard. Rest in peace guard point, which in this game is absolutely free. And if none of that's convinced you, the wound finisher attacks are just both moves where you chainsaw the living hell out of a monster's balls, which is pretty cool. And that's every weapon in Monster Hunter in like 20 minutes or so in a nutshell, give or take. I don't know how long the editing takes or adds from it, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyways, I'm gonna go get murdered by Bale a couple more times, so, you know, subscribe to see that. Okay, take care, stay hydrated, I hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching, bye bye.